Welcome to Slasher Sunday. So I started I got back to listening to Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, which was my favorite podcast for a while, and then I just kind of fell off of it. Honestly, I think this is what happens when you befriend people. Like you watch their stuff, and then when you become too close and too friendly with them, I don't know, it's for some reason it kind of disconnects it a bit. But I got to
Mm.
be really good friends with all three of the hosts, and I stopped listening. I don't know. Anyway, regardless, they did a top 50 non-franchise slasher list, which was like, what was it? It was like 11 hours long. It was insane. And Dave really pulled out because they not only did the top 25 or top 50, but they also did like honorable mentions, and he
Mm.
watched 259 slashers in preparation for the show over like a
Nice.
year period, and he gave a ton of honorable mentions as well. And he probably named 30 freaking slashers that I'd never even heard of from
Hmm.
other countries and whatnot. And one of them was Bloody Reunion. So shout out to Dave Z from Exploding Heads for giving us a ton of new slashers to discuss on the channel.
Yay.
Bloody Moon, actually, I think, was another one
Oh, that's
that was
funny.
on that list as well. So last week
A lot of bloodies.
he gets as well. So, all right. Spoilers, obviously.
Yes.
This is Slasher Sunday, but if you haven't seen this is kind of harder to find.
Mm.
We had to watch it in pretty low res, which sucked. It was at 480, which is dreadful. That's
Yeah.
like freaking VHS. But that was how we had it, and that's how we watched it, and we're here to talk about it. So if you were confused about this movie, you are not alone, but let me explain it to you. I finally figured it out. We were we were so lost. And I think that is the biggest downfall of the film,
Yeah.
right? And Dave and I kind of got into a bit of a discussion about this, and he was more on the side of like, thought that was cool, and I was like,
Hmm.
no, I don't think you should have to run to the internet and Reddit threads and Wikipedia
Mm.
pages to try to piece together. It's not an ambiguous story, right? Where it's leaving it off for your interpretation. That's not how this plays out. It its intention is for you to understand what's happened in the end. And in doing and in and it having that effect in the end means it failed. If every one of us, Kaylee, me, Dave, if everybody has to run to Wikipedia, then that's a failure of storytelling, right? Because they meant it to be known. It's not a David Lynch film, right? Where there's all these symbolisms and metaphors and takeaways that you can project whatever you want onto it. That's not this at all. This very much has a straightforward message that it's trying, or a story that it's trying to convey. It just does a very piss poor job at selling it to us because we had no fucking clue what happened in the end.
Yeah, the ending like really confused both of us so much. We were just like, "Wait, what's happening? I don't understand." And it doesn't really happen until I wouldn't even say it's the third act. I would say it's more like
The last 10 minutes.
yeah, the last like 10 or 15 minutes of the film when it gets really confusing. And it's I mean, yeah, you looked it up and it makes sense now, but
Yeah, I'd have to watch it again knowing that and
yeah.
looking for the dialogue. Now there might be like a translation issue. Maybe the
Mm,
dialogue in its original language makes it make more sense. And so anyway, for if you have seen the film, then I will tell you what you're missing. And it is that the entire film never happened. When you find that out, it's almost like an April Fool's Day type of a
yeah.
movie. So what ends up really happening in this movie is that the person who survives the bloody reunion is being interviewed by the cop. She's telling the story, recounting the story of what happened, and then it's found out in the end that she made up the entirety of the story,
Yeah.
and she projected her own issues with this teacher onto all the other students, which it makes sense. When I was reading it, I was like, Oh, because there was a couple things that I was like, huh? Why is that guy a baseball player when he
Yeah.
supposedly had an injury? And why is this? And I was like thinking about it, but the dialogue didn't make sense to me in the moment. I was like,
Yeah.
huh? But then when I looked it up, I was like, oh. So literally almost the entire film we watch is a fabricated story. None of that stuff happened.
Which is, I'm fine with it. I
Yeah.
don't really have a problem with that. I don't feel like this is a, when people get upset with like dream sequences or something
Yeah.
like that, it's not really that, because it's more, this person is like mentally unwell, and they're also lying to try and hide the fact that they've been like, that they killed people and stuff. And it also kind of makes sense in terms of her, like, just her hatred for this teacher, and kind of, as we had said, like projecting it on other classmates, because she's also envious and jealous of the other classmates. And it's like, so it's like a weird mixture of like the jealousy, and also that she feels, if the teacher had been doing that to all of the other students, it's more of a vindication for, like, of course I have to kill you, like, because you were awful to everybody and everybody got messed up. um yeah, this movie was pretty wild though. I will say that, like, one of the memorable things for me of watching this is the crazy camera work,
Oh my
which
God.
I know we'll talk about, but like it is just filmed such a weird and interesting way. It feels like, I don't know. I don't even know how to
Frantic.
describe it. It's frantic, but it's really weird and all over the place.
It's
And
off putting.
yeah.
Is the problem. And it doesn't happen the whole film. It only happens during key scenes, but there's this like constant zoom in, zoom out
Oh my
on
god.
people.
There was like a 5 minute sequence where it was like, and it's not just like zoom in once and then zoom out. It was like zoom in, zoom in, zoom in out, zoom in, zoom in out,
Yeah,
zoom in, zoom out, like fast and fast.
yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that was super off putting. I don't like any of that. It might be a choice where the fabrication of the story is during that as her story is kind of coming undone. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
And
yeah.
maybe that's what they're trying to say, but she's kind of like making things up. They're not really falling into place, and it's like all over the place.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I don't know
I
if
don't know. I'm
that's
just trying to
true.
make it make sense to some
Yeah.
degree. Now I don't 100% know exactly what ends up being the truth though in the end, right? Like we know that her mom was hit by a car. We
Yeah.
know that she defecated or she had her period
Yeah.
in class. The other person that she made up defecated themselves. We know that she hurt her leg while running.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, she lost a race and then I can't remember which one. I think she just hurt her leg, but then in the story, the guy was made to do all of these
Yeah,
like
to break in his shoes.
yeah something, and that's what hurt his leg, and then
She might have
he's screwed
been
up.
done the same thing as well.
I just find it odd that she's gonna make up this story about how this guy can't be an athlete, but he's like a famous athlete.
Yeah,
Like
that
the
is
cops are gonna
odd.
figure this out pretty quick if he's like a baseball star or
Yeah.
something. Like I was that's kind of weird because if they're dead,
Yeah.
right, and you're looking into their cases and you're going to interview their family or whatever, and they're going to be like, yeah, my dad was a baseball player. And he's like, wait, he's a baseball player? She said that he wasn't a baseball player,
Right, right.
right? Like she said he couldn't be hurt. So, like, what the fuck is this story? This doesn't make any sense. And the fact that one of the classmates didn't even exist and was a stand in for her herself,
Yeah.
right? The shy
The
one
shy
ends up
guy.
being completely made up. And they're going to be like, why didn't we find that person?
I'm really glad though that it does end up being like she's, the villain, because the entire time, like, for most of the film, I was like, okay, all these people have like a vendetta against this woman. Like, she's messed up their lives in so many ways, but this woman that's, like the caretaker, she's so kind and sweet and she's caring for this lady.
Yeah.
Like, but she's one of the classmates, and like, what did she do to her? So it does like make sense in the end.
The one thing that did have us laughing, and I probably repeated multiple times after, was when one of our characters shows up and the guy's reaction to seeing her because she's thin now. he's like looking at her, and he's like, can't figure it out, and then he's like, oh, Super Pig?
Oh my god, yeah, that was so
Super
crazy.
Pig
It
is
was just
such a
it was
crazy
the
thing to call somebody.
translation, so I don't know if that's what it actually is, but Super Pig, it was so funny. The other thing too that I like was confused about, so the teacher is supposed to have this like a deformed
Yeah,
child.
yeah. He's supposed to have
Is
died,
that
but I
real?
don't
Like
know.
that, because that was also like that's one of the red herrings,
I also don't
is
know
that
if,
they were acting like they were like the deformed. She was saying like that
yeah,
was her story,
yeah,
was that the deformed kid, like his mask and
yeah.
everything.
I
But of
think,
course, then it ends up being Shy Guy. I don't know. So that's another aspect of the story that I find confusing because it's like a third element in there.
yeah. I also don't know if she was molested by the teacher, like she was suggesting with the one guy,
Sure,
because I don't
you would
remember
think she was.
seeing that in her revelation, like when the cops finding the info that
That it's
it was
her.
really all her.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I know we saw a lot of the others, like with the food and the race and the like the thank you, like the gift for Teachers Day that she wrote, like her mom supposedly wrote like I love you, Mrs. Whoever,
Yeah.
and like all that was shown. So I don't know, but it definitely like I'm assuming it also happened because although maybe not, she's a liar. She could just be lying.
Sure.
It's hard to
Sure,
say.
I'm sure some of it's just straight up made up, and then
Yeah.
others are just projections of what
Yeah.
she went through.
I
But
mean,
why would she only be mean to this girl and no one else? Because she's poor.
because she's poor.
But they're like, she in the story, it suggests that the reason she's like this to them is because they're the poor students, and she
Yes.
doesn't like impoverished
Yes.
people.
Yes. When
But
in reality, it was just the one girl who was like the poor kid, which is messed up.
so in reality, she ends up just poisoning them all
Yeah.
and then staging their deaths like
Yes.
a murderer did it. But the
Yeah.
way we see it in the film is there's like a slasher villain
Yeah.
who's wearing this bunny mask. And now, as far as the kills go in the movie, they're mostly all aftermath.
Hmm.
Like things are implied, and then we see the aftermath, and the aftermath stuff is pretty gnarly
Oh
looking.
yeah, I thought it was great. I like the vibe of everything. Like even though we don't see the all like all the kills happening, there's a lot of stuff we do see happening. Like the one guy that gets like
Razor
razor blades
blades
like washed down his
with
throat,
boiling
and
hot water.
yeah, man, like there's some brutal stuff, and I like the look of the slasher and it's like the mask and everything. I thought that was all really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
as far as a slasher movie goes, like this does have really memorable characters. Like it obviously is because she's sort of lying about each of them, but they're all very unique and different, and I really like that. I
Mm-hmm.
always think that's fun with slasher films.
Yeah, you have your archetypes.
Yeah.
You have the jock, you have the slut, you have the cool guy, you have the whatever. They mostly have those things here, but they're just grown up versions of those. Um, but yeah, then you have the girls with the glasses, and then she gets the revelation. Which another thing there, if she's lying about her surgeries on her eyes, when they go to check her corpse and she doesn't have surgery on her
I think
eyes,
her eye got cut though.
yeah, but she would have not only medical records
Sure.
that say that she's had surgery, but she would also have stitches and obvious scars from
Yeah.
these things. So it's like her story's not hard to break down. Now, granted, um, she ends up killing herself in the end, and the teacher ends up killing herself too, or at
Yeah.
least it's suggested as such because we get a pan back and there's no one on the dock but the wheelchair.
It's a pretty haunting ending. I liked it.
I did
It's a
find
good
it
shot.
really funny though that they cast like a 40-year-old woman to
As
play
this,
this
like, she's supposed to
elderly
be
woman. Yeah.
geriatric. Yeah, I thought that was funny too. I'm like,
Like, why is
she's
she the
like,
same age as the students?
yeah. At most, that lady was like 50, but I
Oh,
feel like
not
she was
even.
40.
Not even. 45 at
Yeah, she
most.
was young, and they just put some kind of gray hairs and
Yeah.
a couple of
Not
wrinkles on
even
her
that many.
face. Yeah, it was
Not
funny.
even that many. They didn't even
Um,
bother to try to make her look old.
yeah.
She was just old. Yeah, the kills are all right. The aftermath stuff it does feel really dark and
Definitely.
gruesome.
Part of it, I think, is also because of the quality we were watching it on, like the grittiness to it.
Yeah,
Uh,
but it has very memorable, like the guy with the mouth wired open and the
yeah.
razor blades poured in and the thing over his eyes and everything. That's like some hostile
And
shit.
one of the
That's
girls that gets her
brutal.
eyelids like stapled
Yeah,
open.
the other
That's
dude has like
scary.
ants put in his ears.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
even know what
but
they
none of
would
these things
do
happen to
though.
them.
No, they just get
She
poisoned.
just she stages them.
Which
She's
it's
also
really gross
using
because,
like
like,
diaper
yeah, I
water.
was gonna say the poison is with like the diaper stuff, which is really nasty
You would
because
think
it's
they would
like
just smell it and be like, "I'm not drinking
100%.
that.
They'd be like, this
That's
smells like
shit.
poop.
That's shit water. That's
But
not
she
raspberry." She
says,
says they're
yeah,
made with raspberries, bro.
yeah.
If you smell water and it smells like literal human feces, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
raspberry tea." No, that's shit tea. That's poop tea.
They were fooled. They
They're
were fooled.
fools.
Yeah.
There's no way you're drinking poop water.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even get it near your mouth. You would. What the fuck is that?
100, I know.
So I'm calling bullshit on
She maybe
the
the
poop
poison
tea,
that she used like seriously masks the scent and smell of everything else. Like, isn't it
bro.
what is it that's supposed
What
to taste like almonds?
this is fucking.
Cyanide? Is it cyanide that tastes like almonds?
I haven't drank cyanide.
There's some, I think it's cyanide. There's some poison that like it tastes sweet
If
and
I
like
threw a bunch of almonds into shit water, it would still taste like shit with almonds in
I
it.
don't know. I'm just trying to come up with an explanation.
There's no explanation for people drinking shit water and not
They're
noticing it.
fools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he opened that lid, when he screwed it off and he smelled it, he would have vomited into
Yeah,
it.
he would
That's
have.
realistic.
That is realistic.
So, yeah, poop water. I'm not buying it. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good one. I like it. I just wish that they could have told this story in a more coherent way, or we were smarter. But I feel like it was the same problem everyone was having.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone watched this and was like, "What just
Yeah.
happened?"
Yeah. It has cool vibes and like overall I enjoyed it for sure, but I was massively confused at the end. And if I did not like this movie, that would have just made it even worse.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I kind of think like knowing that going into it. I mean it is supposed to be a reveal, but I don't know. Maybe it would be better if you knew
Yeah.
going in.
This is a a tartan Asian
Oh,
extreme movie for sure. I have a few that I've bought. I'm making sure I don't actually own this. I do not. I bought a bunch of them when they were on sale and like for nothing, like $1 or two, $3. And I just bought like a bunch of them, but no. But yeah, if you can find it, I think it's a cool one to have.
yeah.
And once you know that's how it works, then it's like it's much more uh, palatable
Hmm.
because in the end you're like, what the fuck? And then yeah, you look it up and you're like, oh, either I'm a dumbass or this is told terribly,
Or both.
or both is more than likely. But yeah, cool killer look, good aftermath reveal stuff. The story is interesting enough. Typical kind of revenge tale.
Yeah.
No nudity, unfortunately.
No.
But that's pretty typical for Asian horror. You don't usually get much nudity in Asian horror, unless you hire like porn stars, like in Evil Dead Trap.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Hmm.
So, have you guys seen it? Are you gonna watch it? Good luck finding it.
Were you confused
Watch
like
it. Yeah,
us?
watch it in better quality than we did,
Yes.
and it'll look so much better. I would like to see some of those deaths in HD
Yeah.
because man, this was brutal to look at.
Yeah. It really was.
Yeah, and the zooms though are
Oh
never
my
going to be
god, the
helped.
zooms were so crazy. We were like, what's happening? It was like the cameraman just got bored and was like,
I think it was our dog, and he got the zoomies.
yeah, we don't have our dog right now. I mean, we will when you're watching this, but
That's true.
he's at his
Not if you're
grandpa's.
a member.
If you remember,
A member,
you're
you'll get it
watching it.
tonight.
But yeah, our dog's at his grandpa's, and we're gonna pick him up tomorrow. So
Yeah, just a reminder, anyone who's a member of the channel gets the videos as soon as I upload them. Some are a week or two back.
yeah.
So just saying. All right. Well, anyway, Slasher Sunday. Next week, I'm probably be covering yet another Dave Z. One thing I want though, if you guys know where I can find my Super Psycho Sweet 16 trilogy, I'm looking for it to review. Kaylee and I will cover that on the channel. I want to do them one by one, so it'll be a 3-week thing. But I watched it years and years ago, and now it is near impossible to find, which is super fucking annoying. But fun fact, if things aren't available, they are actually, I think, actually, I shouldn't say fact. I should say this is what I've heard, that they are not illegal to pirate or buy bootlegs of if there is no like actual copy
Place that you
being
can buy
sold,
it.
which makes sense to me.
I've never
Like,
heard
what am I
that,
supposed to
but
do?
that sounds like something a pirate would say. They'd be
Arg!
like, "You're not selling it, so it means I can steal it."
That's not how pirates talk.
Arg.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, that was such a low effort pirate. All right. Bye.
Bye. Arg.
Arg.